about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. So many of us woke up this morning to the news that Prince Andrew of the UK, younger brother to King Charles, has been arrested for an accusation in charge of misconduct in office as it pertains to the Epstein files. I believe this is the first arrest within the monarchy in 400 years. And King Charles said that he is going to, he says the law needs to run its course. He is going to be in full cooperation with authorities. But Prince Andrew is in some trouble. I'm wondering why it kind of took this long. You know, there's been so many accusations that he took part in a relationship with one of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, who was trafficked and abused. And then now he's also being accused of sharing secret information about the country to Jeffrey Epstein. And so he was arrested, from what I understand, this morning. Well, in the morning, England time. His name is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the younger brother of King Charles, and he is, I believe he's 66 years old. And so the king said the law must take its course, meaning the king is not going to try to protect his brother. This is a very public, very embarrassing, very tragic case where you have somebody of the monarchy who possibly engaged in sex with somebody underage, a victim who was a part of this trafficking ring that Jeffrey Epstein did. And it's disgusting. He's innocent until proven guilty, but he could, if he is found guilty, be in jail for the rest of his life. You know, we're looking at this Jeffrey Epstein thing, which has now gone on for multiple years. You had the Biden administration have the files, the Trump administration have the files, and the files get released. And every time they get released, there's chaos. I mean, I think Whoopi Goldberg was in the Epstein files as it pertained to, I think she had a plane that somebody wanted to borrow, or she might have needed to borrow a plane. You know, nothing that had to do with the sex trafficking ring. But when they say the Epstein files, you're thinking, you know, like these TV shows, you're thinking the Epstein files is a group of pieces of paper that have all the victims, all the suspects. Here you go. No, remember, we're talking about the government. And so if you're taking the emails, and email has been around now since the 90s, and you're taking the millions upon millions of pieces of data and then, you know, expect it to sift through. I mean, I'm not saying the Biden administration gets a mulligan. I mean, you know, they could have at least, you know, done some sifting and at least given, you know, release some of the information. Now, Trump is, but they're saying, yeah, but it's not everything. Well, the problem is, I mean, if you go back to your email, I mean, you have, I'm still using my same email account that I've used since I started the show back in 2009, which means every single, I mean, emails of birthday parties and weddings I went to, and baby showers and bar mitzvahs and wakes and christenings. I mean, we're talking everything. And so it's so, you know, you're looking at this going, okay, this should be simpler. Just like the Nancy Guthrie case. Why isn't it simpler? You know, if there's suspects, you have victims who are naming suspects. They should very easily be interrogated, questioned. You know, why isn't this going through? And so all these conspiracy theories are out. Well, these people are very connected. So you can't just pull in a former president. You can't just pull in a person of the monarchy and go by because accusations happen all the time. But I think if there's enough enough evidence that this should have, I think, been addressed years ago. And I'm blown away at how long Epstein was able to do this. But the Epstein files are not just the simple files that'll have all the suspects. It is the Epstein files is basically his emails. I'm on everything. And so now every person and their mother is named in these emails because you have somebody that was able to wiggle his way into Hollywood royalty and New York royalty. And so he has emails and everybody's talking to him and he donates and so now if you accepted a donation or you asked for a donation from him, now you I guess pass that layer of scrutiny to now, all right, well now we got to look at them also. So I don't know how much longer this is going to go on. I'm glad that these files are getting released, but this is I think this could go on for decades. And now Jeffrey Epstein is dead. By whatever happened to him. I know they're saying he hung. He hung himself. Did he kill himself or did somebody want to silence him? And so he's gone. And then you have a huge witness. You have Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, you have her who was apparently a part of this ring and convicted of that. And then you have I'm taking the fifth, I'm doing and why didn't we get more information? Why didn't we get more out of her? And so we have to keep going back and talking to her and going back and talking to her. And so if this was done right the first time, we wouldn't be in this mess. And so I'm very frustrated by this because you have victims who probably feel like nothing's ever going to get done, that people took advantage of them. They were trafficked. They lost their childhood. They lost their innocence. They may never be able to recover. And some of these individuals may get off scot-free. Well, they're not. I don't think they will. When you see what happened to Harvey Weinstein, when you see what happens to these people who, think that they are too big to fail, and I do believe that, this is a sign when you look at what happened with Prince Andrew, and I'm not saying he's guilty, but seeing finally the authorities move in and say, you know what, we're moving forward on this. There may be some peace for the victims after all. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799 and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I understand some of you listen to the show live. Some of you listen to it delayed. Yesterday, we spoke about how there were 9 skiers missing after the avalanche that hit some backcountry skiers when they were skiing on over the weekend or on Tuesday. And sadly, we found out within a few hours that 8 of them had been found and 8 dead. 1 is still missing. I think we are told that the one that's missing is actually, I believe, a relative or wife of one of the rescuers. I can't confirm that. But now the rescue mission is in recovery mission because they fear that the final skier, after 2 days, could possibly be dead. Nevada County Sheriff Shannon Moon said the group of 15 skiers were in the Castle Peak area when they got a report of an avalanche around 11:30 a.m. She said challenging weather conditions made it difficult for crews to reach the site. From what we understand, while they were skiing, they were doing a they were with guides, and as they were doing this 3-day backcountry excursion, one screamed out avalanche, and it came on just way too fast. Crews arrived at the scene after about 5:30 p.m., used a snowcat to travel 2 miles before skiing the rest of the way to avoid another avalanche. They found 6 survivors, a Blackbird Mountain Guides employee, and 5 of the clients. How did they survive? Well, from what we understand, they made a makeshift shelter. They said 6 of the skiers huddled in a shelter constructed with tarpaulin sheets. They communicated with rescuers via emergency beacons and iPhone emergency mode until they were found. And so at 11:30, February 17th, Nevada County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call along with emergency beacon messages reporting an avalanche involving this guided party near Frog Lake. The Sheriff's Office mobilized then a multi-agency response, had 46 personnel. 2 rescue teams were dispatched from the Boreal Mountain Ski Resort and Tahoe Donner Alder Creek Adventure Center, and then they approached the avalanche zone from the south and from the north. They used that snowcat to approach the site. And again, they had to be very, very careful because of this rapid storm that came on uneven terrain, and they didn't want to trigger another one. It took 6 hours, but at 5:30 p.m., rescuers were able to find the 6 survivors inside the tarp shelter. 4 of them were able to walk to the snowcat. 2 others needed assistance. So these avalanche beacons they used, according to USA Today, are transceivers, are short-range radio transistors that are worn by every member of a ski or backcountry party. They're usually worn on chest harnesses, above base layers, and underneath jackets to minimize risk of loss if you are falling and crashing against a tree or rock, etc. And so we also always recommend a shovel. As I said, God forbid you get stuck in an avalanche. When an avalanche comes, you need to do exactly what you would do in a riptide. Move to the side. The fastest part of the avalanche is the center. So you need to try to get as lateral as possible. Even though if you're skiing, you will probably be going diagonal, but you'll try to get to the side as quickly as possible. Now, I know it's difficult to see which side are you on. Are you about to go deeper into the avalanche or not? Because there's a lot of snow, there's a lot of powder and all that. I mean, I'm no expert, but try to see what you could see. Sometimes the edges might be a little bit more puffy as opposed to the center being more concentrated and fast. So maybe the puffy area might be a little bit closer to the lateral part of it, but you want to try to just ski diagonally or laterally and get the hell out of that path. If you do come upon a tree, try to hold on to that tree for dear life. That could provide you some stability. And because, again, you don't want to be rolling down the hill, smacking your head. Hopefully you're wearing a helmet, and then hopefully you have a shovel. Because if you do get buried underneath, you want to shovel out an air pocket or try to shovel yourself out of snow and spit, use your body heat to try to make yourself as much of a little igloo or airspace as possible. And somehow, these survivors were able to survive for 6 hours. The signals, the devices were set to broadcast continuously at 457 kilohertz. They transmit pulse signals to other members of the group so members can track and find each other if a member is lost or buried in the snow. According to USA Today, other members changed settings on their beacons to receive and home in on the signals sent by the missing member. Beacons are used in conjunction with probes to pinpoint those buried, and then shovels are used to dig them out. This is the deadliest U.S. avalanche in almost 45 years. According to the Colorado Avalanche Information Center, 11 people were killed in 1981 while attempting to climb Mount Rainier in Washington state. And then 6 climbers died in an avalanche on Mount Rainier in 2014. 5 snowboarders were killed in an avalanche near Colorado's Loveland Pass in 2013. According to the CAIC, or the Colorado Avalanche Information Center, avalanches have claimed an average of 27 lives a year over the past decade. And so this rapid, massive slide of snow, ice, rock, and soil, it can be caused by storms, earthquakes, snowpack deterioration. And California just had a huge storm. High winds, heavy snow, probably the strongest winter storm of the year for the Lake Tahoe area. I lived up in Reno, and one year, very mild snow. The other year, it was heavy. I mean, we're talking streets had to be plowed. It was, and that's the city area. The Tahoe, that's the mountains. That's where it's supposed to get snow. And I'm up in Tahoe every year, and usually it's a nice amount of snow, but it can snow pretty heavy. And when the storms come, it could be bad. The group of skiers, the Blackbird Mountain Guide, said the group had been staying at the Frog Lake huts since Sunday. They were in the process of returning to the trailhead at the conclusion of the 3-day trip when the avalanche occurred. I know a lot of people are questioning why there would be a guided trip while there was such news of a storm. It sounds like it was the end, but unfortunately they still got caught in the aftermath of that. We're hearing and we're seeing now, and we knew this was coming, that there would be articles talking about climate change. And so now they're saying that the climate-driven snow drought set stage for this deadly California avalanche. They said many weeks of worrying snow drought in the western U.S. was driven by the climate crisis, according to The Guardian, and helped set the stage for the deadly avalanche. They said perilous avalanches are not that common, but this could have happened because there was the drought and then there was the heavy snow. And, I live in Southern Nevada. We've had one of the wettest winters we've had in a while. And so I think the Sierras and the Western United States and the mountainous area, I think we've had a fairly wetter winter. But they're not 100% wrong in terms of if you don't have snow and then all of a sudden it comes on super fast, that snow hasn't had time to settle, pack, become stable. But is it climate change? Whenever they keep saying this, they do it because they want people to read the article and go, well, I need to fix it. We need to fix it. So we have to do something. I'm going to put my burger down, or I'm going to go switch to an electric vehicle. I don't think that's going to fix it. I mean, I would rather use the money and the education on skier education, or making sure there's ways to prevent, I guess, like such as flooding, better dams and levees. And I'm just, I know people want to help. And so the media and politicians like to say, well, this is your fault. This happened because you are driving a car and you're taking your plane to cons. They never go after Hollywood. They go after us. Yeah, and all these people going to Sundance and Cannes Festival and all those individuals flying back and forth to do their photo shoots. They aren't the ones that are always criticized, but we are, because we're not doing green. We're not investing in green companies. We're not, look, these vegetable burgers. If you're telling me veggie burgers will help prevent the next avalanche, you have 2 minutes to convince me why. But when you're looking at these sort of snowstorms and these sort of floods, people are saying, well, there's global warming. That's why there's less snow. Now that we have a snowstorm, they're saying, well, it's still climate change because it followed a drought. So just don't mess around with the science, because people are dying here. We need to put the resources where they could be the best use and save the most lives. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So this is interesting. I would talk to patients about career choices and what they were doing in life, and when I would ask them about their 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 20-year plan, I remember one said inheritance. Like, what are you talking about? They go, well, my 10-year plan is if I don't have a job by then, hopefully I'll have my parents' inheritance and then I can live off of that. And it's not a really easy question to ask, but I've been asking people about, inheritance is very, it's foreign to me because our family was always poor. In my family, whether it was the Russian pogroms and escaping Russia and then escaping Germany and escaping Austria and fleeing. I mean, my family always had to flee. And so they never had money. I mean, there might have been a couple knickknacks that were passed down, but I never, got an inheritance or anything like that. I never expected it because the child always had done better than their previous parent or grandparent. And so, again, in my family, nothing, no life insurance, my parents, etc., nothing. So it was foreign to me. I couldn't imagine if, God forbid they left, there would be money I could live on. That's just very foreign to me. But there's a lot of individuals where that is the case, where their parent had a type of job or something where they were able to amass money and retirement. And so a lot of baby boomers and traditionalists or whatever, may have that sort of a setup. And so, what we're hearing now with the threat of AI, the AI apocalypse and job loss and people not having enough money for retirement or nursing homes or home health, their plan B is whatever inheritance they're going to get. And that's to me a little frightening, but it's what a lot of people are planning on and hoping for. Well, what's been, I guess, the standard is families sitting there going, okay, when are they going to die? Or they're like, okay, you'll use your money, for your own health care and your own this, so it's not on us. And then, whatever's left after you pass, we'll split it up. Hopefully people have wills, etc. But some families now are looking at things differently. And there's a lot of grandparents out there going, you could use the money now. Now, there's been tax disincentives and penalties when you try to gift people money. Remember years ago, it was you couldn't gift more than $10,000 or there would be taxes on that. Well, now I think with the big, beautiful bill, I think there's a lot more opportunity for people if they wanted to gift to their grandchildren or things like that, they could do so tax-free. I think the number is now up to $19,000 or whatever. But you're starting to see, and I read this article, where a lot of older people are now kind of re-looking at their finances rather than people waiting for them to die and then ungratefully, taking the money and whatever, saying, thanks, cheers to dad, cheers to mom, and then move on. They, I think identifying that their younger family needs the money. This is a very strange change where the older individuals are doing better than their kids. It used to be the kids always did better than the parents. The kids did better than the parents. That's why in my family, nobody ever had inheritance. And, we kids, especially me, had to help support the family. But we're in a strange situation where now you have a lot of adult kids living at home. And so, can they wait till you pass away for the money or not? So how I look at it is one is you want to make sure that you have money to take care of yourself. You don't want to give away your finances where then if you do need to go to assisted living or if you do need home health nursing or whatever, it then becomes a burden on the family. And so you want to make sure you have that money. But if you are fortunate enough to have that and then some, is it more beneficial to you for those family members to know it's coming from you and for you to take part? So like, for example, I'm hearing of these cases where a lot of kids aren't going to college anymore, but grandma or grandpa really, really wants that kid to go to college. So they're like, look, I'm going to give you money for that. I will pay for your college. And then that grandparent feels like they are, contributing, and they don't have to just wait till they pass. There are things that you could pass on to your children and grandchildren. It doesn't have to wait till you're gone. If there's a piece of jewelry, let's say, that you like, but you never use, this is something you could pass on. And so what we're seeing is a lot of seniors kind of feel like, they want to enjoy that gift giving and be a part of that, or grow or build something. And so I think that can be advantageous. Where can it hurt? Well, if your money is in some index mutual fund that has been exploding over the last few years, yeah, I mean, and it's doing well, you probably want to still enjoy that going up. But if you think things are going to crash, you think your house is going to crash, you think the stock market's going to crash, maybe you can do some shifting. I am no financial expert. I don't come to me for financial advice. I give you whatever I learn, and you run it by a financial expert. But I'm seeing this more and more, where kids are calling it pre-inheritance or something, where the family figures out what the best way to handle and address the family members' medical needs. But if there is extra money, how to divide it up, and maybe it's also because the parent or the grandparent doesn't want to see the fighting. I am blown away when I see and I hear that, at the will reading, the surviving family members all fell apart because they were mad that one person got more than the other. And then, I mean, what a way to leave this earth and then know that the family starts to fall apart. So I think a very big advantage is going, look, this is what I want to do. This is how we're going to do it. I want you guys to be able to enjoy, whatever it is equally. And this is what we're doing. Now, then you have some people who say, no, you're not getting any of the money. I'm just sending it all to charity. So you guys are not going to fight. You guys have to come up with your own, financial 5-year plan. You're not going to rely on me. It's going to make you stronger. But it's fascinating to see that this is something that's happening. So this article I looked at, it's written by Barron's, and they're saying adult kids are getting their inheritances sooner, and they say baby boomers are set to pass $53 trillion to their children by 2045. And so, I don't come from a wealthy family, so I wouldn't even know what to do. I mean, if when my father died, I the siblings just kind of, went and grabbed whatever knickknacks and I was here trying to manage the funeral by myself, paying for it by myself. And I'm like, guys, can I have some memento? I just want a memento, and it was, it did cause some, I guess animosity because I didn't want money and I, but it would have been nice if somebody tried to help and participate in the funeral costs, or, at least can I have something to remember my father on? And I think people were in grief and they just weren't thinking and it was kind of a mess. But what I would recommend you do is talk to a financial planner. I would talk to a estate planner and somebody like me going, okay, I don't really have an estate. Let them decide if you don't have anything worth estating. All right. And there's certain trusts, there's certain things that you could do to protect your money. There's certain things you could do to protect. Like, let's say you're like, well, I don't want to give it to the grandkid, and then the grandkids spend it on vape pens and drugs. Well, there's ways where you could say, no, this is going to X, Y, and Z. But if you feel like, I want to see their glee and I want to help them while I'm alive, that's an option where you start giving your inheritance early. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, I mean, every Olympics is not without its drama. I was joking online about how I lost money in the Olympics because I thought that curling was going to be the least talked about, the least watched of the, no offense to curlers. I mean, it's a cool sport. Of all the, amazing big falls and half pike snowboardings and figures, of all the different, speed skating sort of, very exciting, Olympic sports. I just thought that curling was going to not be as, I guess, popular or talked about or videotaped as much as any of the other ones. And I was wrong, especially with the cheating scandal that I guess happened with Canada. I'm not sure whatever happened to that. We saw, was it Mark Kennedy? Somebody, where he was pushing his finger, that bowl thing. You got the ice, you got the sweeping, you got the bowl. It looks like you're mopping it. I understand there's an art to that sport. It's always on every time I turn on the TV to watch Olympics. They just always have that. And I'm like, where's the bobsleds? Where's the skiing? And so from what I understand, the Canadians have been doing really well. I don't know whatever happened. I thought then they changed some of the rules. But apparently this is still going on where there's still kind of a little fight or row about that. Also, a lot of drama with Eileen Gu. Eileen Gu is American, goes to Stanford, and she chose to represent China because her mom is Chinese. It's a beautiful thing. But again, I always thought the Olympics was every country puts forth their tired and true and born and grit filled national their national champion. And so this is somebody who was born and raised in China, like in America, born and raised in America, born and raised in Finland. That's what makes the Olympics so cool, where you are seeing Finnish individuals and Italians and South Africans. And I mean, this is Peruvians. This is really, really cool, where these are people that were, so it is a little unsettling that you have somebody that got to benefit from being America born, American trained. And then China says, yeah, you know what? I know you didn't get born and raised here, but you're going to represent our whole country for what it is. And that's, I don't know, that just kind of sits a little off. I mean, if she wants to represent the country of her mom, it's a beautiful thing. But I thought the Olympics was more, this is what our country grew and nurtured. And in a lab designed. I mean, whatever the country does. But this person's coming from our country. So it is a little, unfortunately, though, people took it to a whole nother level. Eileen Gu said she was actually physically attacked at Stanford for representing China. She began her studies back in 2022. And then there was a petition created by parents and potential students and Chinese Americans to bar her admission. This is according to The Athletic. And then she said she was physically assaulted on the street and the police were called. She said she had death threats. Her dorm was robbed. She said, I've gone through some things as a 22-year-old that I think no one should ever have to endure. Now, it's a shame that, that anybody should be attacked for, making a choice. But I think the Olympics, there's, I don't know. I just think it's kind of changed to where it's not the Olympics of the, the Greek times or this is where, if you have a sponsor and you get sponsors and you have money and you have the ability to train and then you do, I thought it was, whoever is gifted, we're going to help them. We're going to help train them, as it's, you don't have to put your money in. No, you're going to represent us. The country's going to support you. And then you're here to represent us. If countries are going to transplant people from other countries and say, yeah, let's just give you citizenship really quickly here so we could say you're ours. It's that to me, that's a little cheating. We're going to take somebody from another country because we don't have somebody that's good enough. I don't know. That just kind of rubs me wrong. And then, I watch what happened with Amber Glenn and I watch the figure skating. I'm a fan of figure skating. If I was ever in the Olympics, I would be a figure skater. Not because I can, it's just because that was probably the sport that I expected I would, probably want to do. Where I just, oh my God, she's so graceful. And I would have never become a figure skater. But anyway, when I imagine myself in the Olympics, I imagine myself as a skier as a gymnast and as a, not fantasize about it because I know it's never going to happen. But, when, Dahlia is a gold medalist, what did I gold medal in? So I gotta come up with a sport. So it'd be gymnastics or it'd be figure skating. But, watching Amber Glenn, who's had, some drama, as it pertains to politics. And I understand some Olympians are being asked to weigh in on politics, but she was supposed to go at this short program with the triple axel, one of only 2 skaters, and she doesn't make one of her triple loops. Now they're doing triples. I mean, when I competed in the Olympics, in my mind, I was doing quads, but that's, that's just me. And that's how I won the gold, right? Because everybody could only do triples. But apparently one of her triple loops she couldn't do. I think it landed as a double. And then she lost, her chance at gold, even though her triple axel was nailed perfectly. And then she falls down to 13th place. Now, I think the long program is happening today. But, I'm watching how this happens. And when you're an Olympian, you're supposed to be, competing against everybody else, and then you're tried and true, and you can withstand. And if you overall are the best, you're the best. And so being able to compete using a triple axel is already putting you one step ahead. So then if she missed one of the loops without falling, why can't she just do another triple loop? In fact, if I was guiding these skaters, I would say, guys, plan on 2 different routines. Your plan A and plan B. If you hit all your triples, then just do your footwork, do whatever you need to do, throw some artistry in it, and then end the routine. If not, and you need to do a makeup triple, have a second routine ready to go, just in your mind, plan B, where you switch halfway through, and then you have that choreograph where you could throw in that extra triple. I mean, I'm not sure if you're allowed to do that, if the Olympics said no way. But, I look at how, the media puts the pressure on these, and there's so much pressure. And so she was devastated. She fell to 13th place because even though she didn't fall and she executed her other jumps beautifully, because she just couldn't execute that one jump, she fell. Well, and then look at Ilya Mullin. Ilya Mullinen, everybody's been calling him the quad god. That bothers me a little bit. I think he's a fantastic skater. But apparently he executes quadruple jumps. Well, so do a lot of others. He could do the quadruple axel, which is a very difficult one. But you keep hearing them call him the quad god. So then he does his routine, and he falls twice. And, he's sitting there going, look, if I was able to go to Beijing, I would not have done this. This is not me. And so one performance characterizes your athletic abilities. And then you can't make it up for another 4 years. So you want to be in the Olympics, now you're 4 years older. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying Olympics have to be every year. It just, and I understand there's other sorts of competitions, but there's just something that just doesn't seem to sit right with me about it. And maybe it's because it's probably easier when there's a race. But when you're adding artistry, who is the Olympian? The one person that has more artistry? I don't know. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.